Hi everyone. It's been a while. And while I was hoping to touch base with you here before the end of National Adoption Month, I obviously overshot that, and so I'm coming at you here before the end of the year to give you my final update on my first trip back to Korea. Obviously, a lot of time has passed since I actually returned to the States. It's been about a year and a half now, but to be quite honest, I'm actually glad that I took the time before doing this sort of retrospective because it gave me a chance to really mull it over and let it all sink in and allowed me to interpret how I really do feel about it in a way that I just couldn't have done in even the first month that I was back. There was just no way I could properly articulate how I really felt about it. But looking back at it all now, I still feel the same way as I felt when I first got home here, and that is that I'm just really glad that I did it. It was completely worthwhile, and there were ultimately gains to be made. Like, I really did find that being present over there and just absorbing the environment, absorbing the culture, the sights, the smells, and seeing how the people live, like not only local Koreans, but the adoptee community that's over there, and how they live their lives in their homeland after growing up somewhere else, different places across the globe, as well as conversely, the post-adoption services social workers and how they conduct their business and how they deal with the adoptees who are coming home here. That whole, I guess, diaspora of the adoptee experience was very eye-opening and taught me things that I couldn't have learned if I was just, say, emailing back and forth with my social worker in the United States, or reading books on Korean culture, or even just chatting with people on the various Facebook groups I'm a part of. Now, that being said, what did I actually learn when I was over there that I didn't already know? First and foremost, I would say the most important part of the entire trip was actually meeting my social worker in person. This is the person who's responsible for my whole case. Like, she's the one who has the keys to all my information. Like, I wanted to look her right in the eye and make sure that she actually did care, like that she wanted to help me out. Now, I know it sounds really cynical to suspect otherwise, like that's what they're there for, but that's how I felt. I couldn't help but feel that way. Because, I already knew that even before I went to their tiny office and saw how undermanned they were, at least at Holt, I already knew that these people, these social workers, have hundreds of case files that they're dealing with, probably are talking with adoptees, seeking information like I am over the phone every day, and just they have a ton on their plate. That being said, I wanted to make it clear that, look, I understand you can't give me identifying information, and I know that there are legal aspects to this whole thing that just don't allow you to tell me things that I want to know, so I get that. But at the very least, don't ignore me, just respond to an email that I send, and I promise I'm not going to just be shooting you all these emails expecting 24/7 round-the-clock service. I know it doesn't work that way. But please respond to my emails in a timely manner, in a 21st century amount of time. Don't make me wait 2 weeks to a month. Don't make me reach out 4, 5, 6 times expecting just a response. There's no need for that, right? Obviously, the temptation to just want to bore into them and demand my information was so powerful. It definitely took everything I had not to lose my shit. It is very frustrating, and I completely understand just, the unfairness of it all. It's just so unfair that we don't get this information. It's our information. We don't get it. That's not right. But that's a completely different topic for another time that I'm sure I could waste a lot of time ranting about. Luckily, I had the foresight to know that this is a bridge I didn't want to burn. These people are potentially going to be the liaison between me and whatever family might want to meet me, so you don't want to close that door, right? Anyway, what did I actually learn speaking to my social worker? Well, for one, she verified that I would have definitely grown up in Seoul had I not been adopted. I actually didn't know this information. I didn't know this for a fact. I knew that I was born in Seoul, but I didn't know where my mother was from. And when I was born, my mother was registered as a Seoul resident. Doesn't mean, of course, that I'm just going to be like, oh, hey, look, there she is. I mean, Seoul is enormous. but it does help me kind of narrow down the at least the region of Korea that I would have grown up in. That kind of helps me kind of just speculate as to maybe what my interests would be, what my lifestyle would have been like. Just good to know. So after that, there's a question that I was dying to ask her, and that was, where was I born? What clinic or medical facility, hospital was I actually born in? And she told me, oh, you were born in the Cha Hospital in the Gangnam district. And that kind of blew my hair back. I was like, wait a minute. Where is this? And she said, it's in the Gangnam district. And you bet that I beelined right over there. The building itself looks like something out of Star Trek. It's one of the most modern and futuristic looking places I've ever seen. And not only that, it's apparently one of the preeminent hospitals in Korea. It's like globally renowned. This was kind of shocking to me because I had spoken to other adoptees who had actually managed to also find out their hospital information, but a lot of times when they had gone to try and find these places and revisit them, they had been maybe backdoor clinics or really small medical facilities that had closed and shut down over the years, or the building just wasn't there anymore, like it had been destroyed. So it made me a little nervous, but yes, Cha Hospital is still very much in business. I went inside to scope it out, and the first place I went was the International Relations Department. There was this girl in there who looked like she could have been the intern. But it turns out she was the department. That was her job. I think I kind of caught her off guard because she was like, oh, what are you doing here? And why are you speaking English? But I basically told her my situation, and she understood and was really interested about the whole adoption aspect, and took me over to another department, which I think was the archival department. I'm not really sure. I was told actually that they only hold on to people's medical information for about 15 years, which kind of scared me because I was like, oh god, that's way past my time. But we went over there anyway, and good news is they still had some information on the day I was born. Bad news is the woman who was helping us looked just like the most grumpy, disgruntled, maybe missed her lunch time that day, like just did not look like she wanted to have anything to do with this, and was not very helpful at all. But thankfully, intern-looking international relations lady helped me kind of push a little bit, and grumpy, maybe missed her lunch woman managed to pull out some information that basically said, on this day, January 4th, 1990, which is when I was born, X amount of people came in, X amount of women came in to have babies. You might be thinking, that's really not very helpful. You need to be more specific. Fortunately, this leads me to my third piece of information that I found out from my social worker when I asked. Again, I think this is something that she wouldn't have told me had I not asked, but since I was there, she was ready right on the spot with it and gave it to me right away. My mother's surname, which of course was completely different from the name that I had written on my adoption papers. It says my name is Kichol Yoon. I'm a Yoon. But according to the social worker, my mother's maiden name, because remember she was divorced at the time, so this was her family name, was Ko. Or K-O. Ko. So I approached the hospital with this information, and they were able to do it and looked up all women with the last name, the surname Ko, who came in on January 4th, 1990 to have babies. There were 49. 49 women named Ko who had babies that day. Naturally, I wasn't entitled to any of that information. That entire list was off limits. So what did I do? Of course, I grabbed the list and I bolted. I'm just kidding. Of course I didn't do that. But it was frustrating because I knew that if my mother was indeed registered as Ko when she went into the hospital that day, she would have been one of them. The thing that bothers me the most about that is that I actually could get that information if I had her first name. And that is information that I am not allowed to have. I mean, think about it. It makes sense. It's like if I knew her first and last name and her age, it'd probably be pretty easy to track her down. So that's really where it ended. 49 women with the last name Go, and one of them was probably my mother. And logic would dictate that if I was born in that hospital, if my mother still lives in Seoul, there's a high chance that she might still be somewhere in that immediate vicinity just south of the Han River. I'm not saying that it's guaranteed she'd be there, but everyone I've spoken to, including people at Co-Root and Goal, have suggested that she might very well be in that neighborhood somewhere. But what does that mean? What do I do next, right? Well, there are a few different things that I still need to do to really be able to say that I've done everything I can. I've cast out every net and tried every possible way to locate my family or find out more information about myself. And the first thing I can do when I go back to Korea next time is submit a DNA sample to the national database. Apparently you can do this now. It's kind of a new thing, but I have heard that the police are now helping adoptees with this. I'm not exactly sure how successful people have been with it, but just knowing that option is available to me, because, there's no way that I can do that from the United States. I have to actually do that while I'm there. Knowing that I can do that when I go back is nice to know. Like, I wasn't able to do it when I was over there the first time because, again, it was during Chuseok, which lasted the whole week I was there, the second half of my trip, and I found out about it a little too late, and everything was closed, so I couldn't actually go in and submit my sample. The second thing I could do is, if I wanted to go back to the Gangnam district, I could actually print out messages in Korean with my photo and put them up in different places around the neighborhood. And someone suggested to me that I go to hair salons, that I go to fancy restaurants, grocery stores, places that she might visit. And quite honestly, I really still want to do that. Just say, hey, please contact me, and then let her know as well that I don't want to derail what she's built. I don't need to meet her in person. I'm not just running over to her and, as soon as I find out where she lives, go knock on the door and say, hey, I'm home. But I would like to get to know more about her. I would like it if she wanted to learn more about me. And the final thing that I could potentially do if I really wanted to, and I've heard that this has actually been a successful way of going about it, is hire a private detective. I'm not really sure how it works. I just do know that there's a guy who's been helping other adoptees, and with certain degrees of success. Like, I guess he's helped reunite a few people with his methods. He used to be a cop, I suppose. Anyway, I've been giving his contact information from multiple people, and I guess he's still doing it. So if I wanted to reach out to him and see if he could take everything that I have and run with it, and who knows what sort of strings he could pull to try and get more information from Holt, that's an option as well. So anyway, I know this video ran a little bit long, but that is kind of a summation of how my first trip back went, and I do plan on going back there again, hopefully sooner than later. Like, I'm not just shelving this for now and gonna wait another 5 or 10 years before I consider it. I still am very serious about finding out more, and I think the next time that I actually go over there, though, it will be with my brother, at least I hope, and when we do that, that'll really be my, I guess, final chance to kind of cross those T's and dot those I's and do the things that I wasn't able to do while I was there the first time that I really still want to do, before I really have to just kind of sit back and say, okay, I've done everything I can, the ball is in her court, that being my mother's. And whether or not she wants to reach out to me eventually, I am not giving up hope that she might actually want to meet me one day, but I'm also not really expecting that to be anytime soon. So I just wanted to share with especially the adoptee community who might be out there watching this that it is scary and it will be frustrating. You have to just be very persistent and very patient. The key, though, is persistency. Like, again, unless you ask those questions to your social worker, you're not going to get those answers. I think they're taught not to just outright say things to you until you actually ask them yourself. And I will, from my personal experience, definitely can attest to that when I did put myself out there, when I was proactive, every time that I tried out something new or I just cast a new line out, I did get results. I did find out a little bit more. It did relieve me in some way. So, trying your hand and being your own advocate, it was 100% worth my time. And I feel very different because of it. Like, it was almost more therapeutic actually just going through the process than reaching my end goal. And I actually don't think that this is something that's necessarily more beneficial to just adoptees. I think that anybody could benefit from a trip like this. Just seeing the homeland, land of your ancestors. I know personally I just feel more whole as a person because of it, which is not what I was expecting. I mean, there were definitely times that I could have easily just become more confused, bitter, and fragmented. Fortunately, that's not how I came away from it, and the book is still open. I still have chapters that need to be written, so just gotta kind of wait and see what happens. I think I'm probably gonna next put together a video on tips that I would give people who are just ready to start the search, so that should be coming sometime in the new year, and meanwhile, happy holidays.